All right, we about to go live. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is OD with Tommy Dogs back in the building once again with Cup Food Sports, another banger. On this show, we're gonna get into all the Sherrone Moore drama, Michigan football controversy, and who their potential next head coach can be. But before we get started with all that, how you doing today, AD?
Doing pretty good, man. Can't complain, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. Other than this Sherrone Moore nonsense going on right now, craziness. Over the last 72 hours, everything we learned so far. What you think about everything?
Well, I mean, it's just a lot of really a lot of drama, man. Just a lot of a lack of accountability on Michigan's part as a university, and then it's just really the NCAA not doing his job when it comes down to Michigan. So I mean, it's just a lot of drama. You look at his situation. I mean, just crazy situation, man. How this all unfolded. Michigan had knowledge of this months before, and now that all this is coming to light. And really, I just think that we have to see what the sanctions are going to be. Is the NCAA really going to hold this college accountable? We shall see. I mean, what are your thoughts on
it? Well, we'll get to holding Michigan accountable a little bit later, but as far as Sherrone Moore goes, everything I found out about this topic so far, number one, the fact that this gentleman was dealing with this young lady for what we know as a few years at this point, and the fact that he got her pregnant and had her chaperoning his wife and children around campus whenever they came for Michigan game days is insane to me. And then on top of all that, this dude had the comfortability to not only after he got her pregnant, get her to get an abortion, and then give her a raise on the job for a job that she was unqualified for. And then as far as I can tell, with everything that went on at Michigan, there were a few questions raised by administration about everything that was going on. And because there was no real hard, tangible evidence of everything that was going on, they let it slide. But also another piece of information that we've learned in these past couple of days, why we wanted to hold off on discussing this topic to wait till everything came out. I can't believe that this dude, after knocking her up, giving her a pay raise, giving her another job, once the administration told him that they were too close because they had been seen around Michigan's campus a lot together, then said, once they gave an ultimatum to move her to a different department or to fire her, instead of him just saying, you know what, I'm going to move her to a different department, all his lazy, incompetent self did was fire her because he thought out of sight, out of mind. And that's why she went to Michigan's top brass and told them exactly what was going on. So this entire thing is a beast of its own. It's entirely Sherrone Moore's fault. He's lazy. He's incompetent. He was a great offensive line coach. He should have never been the head coach of Michigan football.
No, he really shouldn't have, but if you look at the situation, and I've got some data on this, and I also have some reports on this. Supposedly, when Harbaugh left, he put in his contract that Sherrone Moore was supposed to be the next head coach of Michigan. Now, there's some reports going out about that, saying that was, Michigan had addressed that, but they kind of on the fence. They won't really necessarily say it was false or true or false. So if that's the case, then that's even more egregious that Michigan even went along with something like that. This guy has total lack of self-control. He thought with the wrong head, as they say, and it's just a bad look. Like you said, great offensive line coach, even though I thought, offensive line played subpar this year, but he looked like he wasn't in control, and it shows because his line was else. And it's just a sad situation, man. Now, he has a wife and kids, and now this is all over the place. They're talking about he's looking at felony charges. You lost everything. And for what? Now his only fan models are coming out talking about, him giving tickets to a game for, other favors. We won't get into that, but this is a nasty situation, though, dude. I mean, what else can you say about it?
I can say plenty about it. Number one, the dude was unqualified for the job in the first place. He only got it because he was buddy with Jim Harbaugh from the get-go, and because he won some games in the interim while Jim Harbaugh was suspended. And let me just say this to all the crazy people out there who keep saying that Michigan is this great job and one of the best jobs in the country. Number one, since journalists stopped selecting national champions, Michigan football has only been relevant 1 week out of every year. And that's when they played Ohio State at the end of every season. Because number one, throughout Michigan's history, they don't schedule tough out of conference opponents. That's just slightly been changed the last couple of years, where they scheduled Texas and Oklahoma and got soundly whooped up and down the field by both teams. Neither of which was SEC champion. Also, Michigan football since the BCS era and the college football playoff era, they've been the only years that they've been relevant to any national championship contingency outside of the early 2000s with Lloyd Carr and into the mid 2000s, right before Mike Hart left. And they had a couple decent years under Rich Rodriguez before they fired him, and then went on another series of runs of mediocre head coaches while they couldn't win. But it's because you can't recruit at Michigan. But I digress. Anyway,
you took my point there, sir. You took my point.
Anyway, getting back to the old Michigan football. Michigan football has never been like that. Don't tell me about your 12 national championships that you won before, when journalists were still selecting national champions and Harvard and Yale was still relevant to college football. Like, miss me with all that nonsense. Second of all, I'm tired of people talking about the money that Michigan has in their endowments and everything like that for recruiting football players. Number one, that's not how NIL works, and that's not how paying players works based on the current system. Sure, you can have all the billionaire alumni and pieces of crap that you have of Michigan alumni and alumnus all you want to, in which we'll get into that in a minute. But at the same time, all that money under the table stuff, you can't do that. All of that stuff is irrelevant. If it was relevant, then Harvard, Yale, Brown, Princeton, every Ivy League school would run circles around everybody else. Stanford would be running circles around you. Penn State would be top 3 every year. Miss me with that. Back to Sherrone Moore, the gentleman was given all the tools he could. He was recruiting at a very high level. In some aspects, to me, he was recruiting at a bit of a higher level than Jim Harbaugh was, because Jim Harbaugh wasn't a very likable gentleman, whereas Sherrone Moore seemed to be a pretty affable guy. But best of luck to him, or not, because he's a cheating bastard and he should have never stepped out on his wife, especially when you go, like, man, off the topic of sports for just like literally just this half a second one comment. Dude, if you're going to cheat on your wife, you got to cheat up. Like, you can't just cheat.
Oh, man, definitely.
Bro. Like, I don't even understand where this dude coming from. Like, you're just going to cheat. Your wife, a nice looking, a beautiful lady, a nice looking woman, you're going to cheat with this okay looking 20-something-year-old and knock her up. But back to you. What do you think about this Sherrone Moore thing?
Well, D, I totally agree with you, man. When it comes down to it, it just, like you say, if you're going to do any type of cheating, you got to cheat up. You know what I mean? And in this situation, he just was looking at it as a young lady that was interested in him. And we know why she was interested. I mean, it's a money thing, So if we're going to just be honest here, man, it's just a bad look for the university. It's going to hurt the recruiting at Michigan. because now you're looking at a situation where the quarterback they got, he may be gone. He scrubbed his account on Instagram. That's all gone. So now you're sitting at a situation looking at, you got uncertain at the head coaching position. You have uncertain with recruits. And like you said, it's a hard place to really recruit. Everybody keeps talking about Michigan being the top job. It really isn't. I don't even think it's a top 5 job or a top 10 job, really. But it's an unfortunate situation, but it's a situation that he got himself in. It was something that Michigan, I thought, could have got ahead of. And, they tried to in a sense, but again, they're so lax with the situation. You look at the Jim Harbaugh situation. He ran away from college football when that came down on him with the cheating, even though I don't think the NCAA even handled that correctly. But, going forward, I think this is going to affect their recruiting classes going forward for the next couple of years. And it's a domino effect situation for Michigan going forward, man. So, I mean, I think he'll get a job at a smaller school later on, somewhere down the line. Hopefully in his, that's the best outcome for him, where he could just start somewhere at a D3 school and try to get it, continue his coaching career. But it's just not looking good. Like I said, facing felony charges, man, this is just a very messy situation, OD. I don't know how he comes back from that.
Man, I really don't either, brother. But let's transition real quick into this another topic about Michigan. And man, I just have this thought, and I've had it since the story broke and a little bit before that. Michigan needs to get hit with a lack of institutional control. Number one, the NCAA tried to hit LSU with it over former basketball coach Will Wade giving a player some money literally 2 years before NIL went active, and over a football player who didn't even play under the Les Miles era, which is crazy. But these are all sports-related topics, number one. Number two, Michigan had that Weasley snake nasally POS taking pictures and taking videos of female athletes and students in the locker rooms and bathrooms. Number one. Number two, Jim Harbaugh was caught cheating. I don't care what anybody says. They caught them cheating with their hands in the cookie jar. And number three, this Sherrone Moore thing with the staffer that we can confirm Michigan at least knew tangentially about for the past at least 30 to 60 days. They knew about and sat on their hands about until the girl literally came forward because Sherrone Moore was firing her. I don't understand in such a short period of time how Michigan can go through all these controversies to the point where Jim Harbaugh now pretty much has a 10-year suspension from anything involving college athletics because of what he did in the cheating. And all Sherrone Moore had to do, even though he was the offensive guy who took over for 4 games while Jim Harbaugh was quote unquote self-suspended for a season, all he had to suffer was a 4-game suspension that Michigan chose, and the NCAA accepted it. And Michigan paid a $10 million fine. And on top of all that, Larry Nassar, that disgusting pedophile POS who worked at Michigan State, was a Michigan man. Like, I'm going down.
That's right, Michigan man.
I'm saying is that Michigan as a whole is out of control as a school and as an athletic program, and it should really be considered by the NCAA that they should get hit with a lack of institutional control. They should be heavy fines, sanctions, suspensions, and scholarship reduction.
Most definitely. If we look at the key aspects of lack of institutional control, they're not the head of Michigan. They're not monitoring the situations going on over there, as seen with the Jim Harbaugh situation and now this situation. weak culture, violations, lack, leadership accountability. These things are all been violent. You look at this situation, just like you talked about the LSU situation with Les Miles and Will Wade. They hit LSU hard when those infractions came about, and they didn't shy away from finding them as much as they could, and also took away scholarships, as you mentioned before. Why is Michigan? Why are they dodging everything? Why are they dodging everything? We know why. Because, like you just said, the guy that's in the highest in the highest seat, as you want to call it, he's a Michigan guy. So, when USC had when USC and the Reggie Bush situation happened and all that stuff, when Pete Carroll was there, they fined them, they vacated wins, they took his Heisman, all these things. Michigan has got fined, sure, but they didn't vacate wins, they didn't take away scholarship.
Yeah, it seems we lost the atomic dog for a second, but to finish that up, man, it looks like Michigan, as usual, is going to skirt by every topic. They're going to get by everything super easily, and because of the title Michigan Man and all this other stuff, and the fact that they're attached to such sneaky, slimy guys like Dave Portnoy is wild enough to me. And he's just going through the media and going through Twitter and every other social media account, looking and trying to clean up the piss poor image of Michigan everywhere, just because his university looks bad, has done horrible things, and it's attached to some very disgusting, despicable things in these past few years, right? Moral of the story is Michigan, if Michigan were any other university right now, they'll be slapped with a lack of institutional control. They would be fined heavily, at least somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to $40 million, especially in this NIL era where you don't even the NCAA can't even go after you for paying players now. There's even an in-house clearing for all NIL related deals, and there's profit sharing with the student athletes. So everything that's going on right now with Michigan football is something entirely of their own making and something that they chose to do. These bastards need to get fined, like I said, at least between 25, $50 million and have a heavy scholarship reduction, especially in football, because it seems like they can't control any of their football coaches. The athletic director doesn't want to touch anything to do with it, who's a DI hire himself. Man, it's just sad what's going on. Dave Portnoy's attached to that thing. He's already a slimy little so and so. I just don't see what's going on, man.
My
But
apologies, my apologies. I'm back.
it's all good, AD. But
But I was just saying,
we
just to finish up, they talk about SEC bias when it comes to college football. You see the bias here from Michigan. They have been the least penalized team. When you looked at SMU when they got caught paying players, they got handed a death penalty. Here we are again with Michigan facing another scandal. First it was the cheating. Now you got Sherrone Moore, cheating on his wife, doing these things, preferential treatment for a staff member, which is another thing. He's not paying a player, of course, but he's paying a staff member for a relationship. You boost her salary, you doubled her salary, right, from 48 to 90,000. She's not even qualified for that, and so now you're adding on to that. So if there's no sanctions, I mean, you didn't vacate wins when you got caught cheating for the championship season. You didn't vacate scholarships for this team. You got to sit up there. If they sit on their hands again and nothing happens for Michigan, the fix is in. Like you said, the fix is in. Oh,
yeah, your mic going out, big dog.
can you hear me? There you go.
Yeah, I can hear you, but your mic started going out. Yeah, I can hear you now. But
Sorry about
yeah, and just to drive this point home, I'm gonna go over a few Michigan controversies Since 2010, several Michigan football coaches and staff have faced suspensions or arrests for various reasons, including NCAA violations, legal issues, and conduct issues. Rich Rodriguez, the program faced self imposed sanctions and probation in 2010 for exceeding practice time limits under his leadership. That's bad coaching. Matt Weiss, the co offensive coordinator, was fired in January 2023 due to a federal computer hacking criminal case. Crazy. Jim Harbaugh, we already know what that slimy bastard did. Connor Stallions was a low level staffer at the center of the sign stealing scandal and resigned in November 2023 and received an 8-year show cause order from the NCAA, meaning dude can't work for any NCAA college team for the next 8 years. Well, 6 years at this point. Chris Partridge, the linebackers coach, was fired in November 2023 for a lack of cooperation with the NCAA investigation. Greg Shrugs, the defensive line coach, was arrested for operating a vehicle while intoxicated in March 2024 and resigned shortly after. Denard Robinson, former Michigan player and recruiting staffer, was suspended after an April 2024 car crash where he was arrested for operating while intoxicated. He is no longer with the program. The list goes on and on with these slimy bastards since 2010. My point exactly is, of all those things I listed off, Rich Rodriguez was in 2010. Everything else came within the last 2 or 3 years. How Michigan isn't even being considered right now to get hit with a lack of institutional control with all the controversies they had that I just listed off on top of the Sherrone Moore thing. I don't see what we have going on. Not to mention, since 2015, Michigan has had 7, count them, 7 head coaches arrested. That's the most in the entire NCAA out of any school, number one. Number two, they've also had 11 other coaches who were given a show cause of at least 10 years since then. That is ridiculous. But
ridiculous. And we don't hear that with any other program. We don't hear that with any other program.
We don't hear that with any other program, but just crazy. But to wrap up this little Michigan topic we got here, let's go to some potential head coaching candidates they have. Who do you think they should go after, Doc?
Well, I mean, man, I tell you, really and truly, I'm gonna tell you who I hope they go with. I hope they go with Brian Kelly. Let's get his ass over there. For the sake of LSU, I hope they get Brian Kelly.
They won't, but they're smart enough for that.
It ain't smart enough for that. We shall see. But I on a serious note, there's some coordinators out there. I'll look at it like this. The good ones are pretty much taken. But if you want to go, do you think? Let me ask you this. Let me throw his name out here for you. Do you think that a guy like Zach Robinson went move from the Falcons offensive coordinator?
I mean, to go to college.
I heard about him. I heard about Ryan Beard. Well, you look at it like this. He's a coordinator in the NFL right now. If he takes a head coaching job in college, he could build his resume and maybe come back to the NFL as a head coach. But same thing with Ryan Beard. He's a hot candidate that I've been hearing about in a lot of circles. But Ryan Beard's already in college. He's at Missouri over there. But does he take the step and go to Michigan? One person told me something about John Gruden. John Gruden wants to be in the SEC. He doesn't want to go to a team like Michigan, especially with all that drama. He's already dealt with drama. So I think I would think somebody, a coordinator. There's been talk about Kelvin Shepherd, but what are your thoughts?
Let me just stop you right there.
I don't think he will, but it's a head coaching job. It's a head coaching job.
Well, why would he
could parlay into something bigger?
But why would he leave the Detroit Lions, who he pretty much is really comfortable over there to go to a disruptive situation with Michigan where they could possibly be facing sanctions for everything that's been going on. That's what I'm saying. Like this Sherrone Moore thing is so huge because number one, it, the reason it's so disruptive and hard for me to even say something like that for somebody like Calvin Shepard is, dude, this will be your first head coaching job ever. Like people will base your resume from here on around a lot of things based off of what you do with your first head coaching job. There'll be positions you won't be available for if you fail, and if you don't do good and you get fired, there'll be teams that don't even look at you. That bad experience could sour your taste and all this other stuff. Like I that's just a bad thing to me. Number one, like, and number two, like Michigan, man, the tough spot about Michigan is, and why I really think that something's going to happen to them is because of the timing of when Sherrone Moore got fired and the details that are coming out. Because it, it's just crazy to me, and it doesn't make a lot of sense that there were just and why, and that's one reason why I think the NCAA is going to give them something. Even if they don't hit them with a lack of institutional control, they're going to hit them with something and give them some type of scholarship reduction and big fine. Like that's something heavy for somebody like Kelvin Shepard to run into. You know who I don't think is heavy to run into, even though you mentioned his name for a second and just missed it? John Gruden. John Gruden, number one, regardless of what we think about the emails that came out, he still said what he said, and people are still gonna look at it like that. You know who doesn't look at it like that right now though? College and high school kids who are just getting there. And he's a pretty big name. He's pretty popular. Now, granted, if you do hire him, a lot of it's gonna come up, but you could also bury in the cycle of just throwing more smut and dirt on Sherrone Moore and Jim Harbaugh's name. That's what I would do if I was Michigan. Any negative thing that comes out in the news cycle about John Gruden, I'm burying it.
Yeah.
I'm paying some other OnlyFans model to say he hopped in her DMs. I'm paying some other student to say, oh well, Sherrone was hitting on her and Sherrone did this and Sherrone did that. Nah, bro. Like to me, the number one coaching candidate they should go after, especially this late in the cycle, where number one, the hiring cycle is pretty much over. Recruiting is pretty much done.
Yeah, it's late.
And it's gonna be like, and the fact that as soon as you hire a new head coach, every recruit that committed to your program within the first 5 days can decommit with no penalty and open their commitment back up. Man, that's just I don't know. That's rough though. Like that's rough. And uh
I
yeah, bro.
mean,
I think
you really don't have a lot of candidates out there, really. I mean, either you're
I
gonna go for
mean
a small school coach that's right, or you're gonna go for a big name like John Gruden, or you're gonna try to go searching for coordinators in the NFL that have had some success. I mean, there's really not a long list because, like you said, you're late in the cycle. You know, this happened, right before the college football playoffs. So you're really behind the eight ball, and the big names that were out there have gotten hired. Billy Napier is gone. John Summerall's gone. I don't think he would have looked at the job anyway. But Lane Kiffin's gone. So you got a lot of guys that's already got jobs already. And I agree with you about John Gruden. I don't know. I just think that he wants to come to the SEC, but I don't know who they're gonna get. Are they gonna go with one of the guys already on staff? I mean, how does that look for the recruits? I don't see which direction they're gonna go here. I mean, it's their fans think that they think their university is bigger than what it is, and does it have history? Sure, but with all the controversy going on right now, what coach with any respectable reputation wants to go there and have to deal with that? You got to deal with recruits leaving because you're going to have some recruits bail on this program, and going forward, what big name recruits are going to go there?
Man, it's something you just said that sure Michigan has a history, but man, everybody has a history. Prostitutes have a history. It just depends on what that history says. But man, look here. It's it's two more candidates that I can think of that would be perfect hires for them at this point in the recruit and the coaching cycle. They fulfill two qualifications that I think Michigan is looking for. One, they're big names. Two, they've had success in at the college football FBS level before. And that's one, Bobby Petrino, who was all but campaigning to be the head coach of Arkansas after Sam got fired, number one. And number two, Jimbo Fisher. Now, Jimbo, I don't think would want it.
Oh Lord Jesus Christ.
But I think Jimbo does something to that team that Jimbo and Bobby kind of do something to that team that they don't that they haven't had in a while, and that's having an innovative offensive play calling because Jimbo was always a really good offensive play caller. He was always pretty innovative and he liked to go down the field. Also, he also kept a strong running game at Florida State, at LSU, at Texas A&M. Now, granted, at Texas A&M toward the end, things kind of got messed up, and I think the fact that they were still early in their process in the SEC and still were trying to get their footing as a program, just leaving the Big 12 with recruiting and everything. I think that kind of messed them up at Texas A&M. But I think Jimbo would be a great hire for them. Granted, they shouldn't give him anything more than a 5-year contract. Give him 3 years really. If he doesn't have a winning season or if he doesn't look good,
I was about to say, I don't think they'll even give him 5 years. I think they'll probably give him 3.
Well, I'm saying give him a 5-year contract. If he does good in the first 3, you can keep him. If not, you can always move on. And as far as Bobby Petrino, he's been chomping at the bit, and he's a really innovative offensive play caller who does have a primarily running style offense. He runs a lot of zone read. He runs a lot of that counter run, which I think would do good, especially with that Midwest, with a Midwest school like Michigan and how they're a tough nosed institution. I think Trino would be great. I think Jimbo Fisher could hold that recruiting class together pretty well because he's always been a great recruiter. Um, and John Gruden, because John Gruden's been looking to get back into coaching because right now his name is pretty much mud. And as long as he's not in the coaching game, it's going to stay that way. But give me your final thoughts on this Michigan topic as a whole before we wrap this up.
Well, I just want to say something about the Bobby Petrino thing. The thing with Bobby Petrino, he comes with his own controversy. With the way he had jumped around with the coaching, thing back and forth with Arkansas. He has a history there. So Bob Petrino, I mean, if they get him, he will fit right in with the controversy because, great coach. I think he's a very, very pretty good, but a lot of controversy and a lot of funny, messy history going on there with Bob Petrino. But I do agree with you about the Jimbo Fisher thing. Jimbo Fisher, while he was at Texas A&M, had some pretty good recruiting classes. I think at one point had a number one recruiting class in his time there. Just couldn't get it together there at Texas A&M, but I do believe that those are two great names there. Jimbo can handle that situation. Bobby Petrino can handle that situation at Michigan. It just comes down to whether or not Michigan, who they really point their nose up at certain people, will they make those moves? I think Jimbo is looking for opportunity for redemption after the way things ended at Texas A&M. Bob Petrino is always looking for another opportunity. He's a very innovative coach. So we shall see going forward with Michigan. I would say the top 4 names on my mind: John Gruden, I agree with you there. Jimbo, Bobby, and the last name I'll say is going to be a coordinator, whether it's from the NFL or from a small school team, that I think is going to be that's my 4th option in terms of coaching candidates for Michigan.
Well, I agree with a lot of those names. I don't like where you're coming from with that. But like I said, we're about to get out of here, y'all. We'll be back a little bit later. We enjoyed discussing this Michigan topic. Any last words for the people, Doctor?
And all I could say is, good luck, Michigan. Not really. You know, you thought you were better than everybody else. Goddamn rabbit hole. So good luck to you. And I hope Bryce makes the right decision and come on to LSU.
That's all for today. This has been Tuck Rule Sports. Like, comment, subscribe to the page. Thank you for listening. Have a good one.